I've got this orb of magnificence. I've got the glove of impartiality. I've got the helmet of looking forward, all that sort of thing. I've got the whole bunch of swords going out the door. You can just put that over there.
I can't tell if you're joking about those things or if those are real items.
I'm not even sure anymore.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Very Special Relationship, the show that doesn't let a silly thing like the Atlantic Ocean come between us. I'm Andrea Bridges-Smith from the Fenix News Network on YouTube, and with me is Matt Johnston from the Interesting Times. Matt, how are things going over there?
Oh, well, hello, Andrea. And first things first, let's get that whole democracy thing out the way before moving on to, the important stuff.
Sure.
If you remember, last time we spoke, I gave a few predictions during last week's show about the local elections. Yes. And I said the Conservatives were on course to lose a few hundred councillors. Well, Greg Hands, who is the Conservative Party chairman, went on a few TV shows say it could be as much as 1,000. And in fact, so far they are down 1,058 councillors. So the Tories managed to get one prediction right.
Oh, that sounds awesome. It sounds like the Conservatives are in for a bit of a rough time, which I'm always
Absolutely.
glad to hear. So what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, the Conservatives will probably spend the next 18 months or so carry on making up figures and getting upset about ever-decreasing number of things that have no relevance to everyday life for ordinary people. Things like drag readings, Meghan Markle, etc., all while asset stripping the UK so that when Labour eventually do get in, all they'll have left is wobbly desks, a moth-eaten chair, and, Boris Johnson's party poppers.
Well, that is certainly a strategy, isn't it?
Now, Andrea, one thing there's been a lot of talk about here is an anti-monarchy group called Republic. They had a number of protesters arrested on Saturday. And I understand you've got your own Republican that's fallen foul of the law. Is that correct?
Well, we've got a few of them, actually.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, we're apparently going to start trying this new thing. You may want to look into it. And it's called Facing Consequences for Your Actions. It is unfamiliar, but really refreshing.
Oh, yeah, sounds interesting. Tell me more.
The way it works basically is you do something bad, and then instead of getting away with it forever, something bad happens to you. Try looking into it. You guys may enjoy this.
Yeah, I do like the sound of that, certainly.
So the Consequence Facery Party kicked off yesterday with our good friend Donald Trump having to pay his accuser E. Jean Carroll $5 million, which I think in Celsius is about 3.9 million pounds. And in Trump terms is the amount of legal fees he pays his army of lawyers every 12 seconds.
Wow. That's crazy. So do we know what happens now? Is that it? He just has to pay the money?
We'll probably appeal that decision, and it'll go up and up through the courts until they finally say, knock it off and pay her, by which point he will have paid probably way more than $5 million in legal fees. It would be way smarter to just hand over the cash and be done with it and move on to one of the other 47 cases that are piling up against him every second. But that's not the Donald Trump way.
Well, that's what we call the Prince Andrew approach over here.
Yes, exactly. I believe Prince Andrew was the inventor of that approach, and Donald Trump is really perfecting it. So then the party continued with George Santos. So, Matt, are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I sort of am. He's quite the character, isn't he? I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yes, quite the character. That is a good euphemism for George Santos. So for anyone who isn't familiar with him, George Santos has had an illustrious career, first as a championship volleyball player, then as the first astronaut to set foot on Jupiter, and I believe he was just coronated as your new king this past weekend, all of which is not true.
Right. A true American zero.
Yes, exactly. So George Santos, who is a representative in the House of Representatives, he lies just as much, if not more than Trump, and that is a very high bar to clear. The Justice Department has filed criminal charges against him for wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds and lying to the House of Representatives, which is where he works. And yes, he is running for re-election.
Wow. Yes, this is clearly a person that has, as we said, a bit of an interesting life.
Yes, I love how the British ability to euphemize is truly a wonderful thing. So Matt, I know you guys had a big weekend in the UK. You had this delightfully expensive coronation, and I'm dying to hear if anyone was accidentally beamed in the head by the talking stick of inevitability or whatever.
Oh, no, but there has been a lot of talk about one Penny Morton, who was, bear with me here, the leader of the House of Commons. That's not the bit you've got to bear with me about. But she received a lot of accolades due to her non-ministerial role of presenting the dual sword of offering in a ceremonial role as Lord President of the Privy Council and bearer of the Sword of State. Basically, she had to stand for a long time, about 2 hours, with a heavy sword. I mean, it weighs over 3.5 kilograms, and it's got to be kept at right angles away from the body. It's very impressive. So much so that quite a few Conservative thinkers and MPs have suggested that, based on that, she would make a good Prime Minister. And I bet you thought picking a leader based on their ability to pull a sword out of a stone was just a myth.
All right, so there is a lot to unpack there. First, can we just have a quick giggle about the jeweled sword of offering? What does one do with the jeweled sword of offering, Matt, besides make their personal trainer very proud?
Oh, genuinely, and I looked this up, genuinely, after 2 hours, they offer it to the Archbishop of Canterbury, who kind of picks it up and puts it over somewhere. Let's be honest, you could easily just say, that's fine, just put it over there. Honestly, I've got this orb of magnificence, I've got the glove of impartiality, I've got the helmet of looking forward, all that sort of thing. I've got the whole bunch of swords going out the door. You can just put that over there, for goodness sake. But it's a sword of offering. I know it's a sword of offering. Yeah, there we go.
I can't tell if you're joking about those things or if those are real items.
I'm not even sure anymore.
Also, I don't know if you guys have considered maybe a nice table with a little fancy tablecloth over it, maybe a nice little sword box. You could just put it in there.
But we can't just call it a table. It would be the table of impotence.
The table of infinite incredulity, perhaps.
Yes. The table of irony and only have 3 legs and they just fall over all the time.
Oh man, they should really put us in charge of this coronation. That shit would be lit.
They have a lot more fun. And I'd easily do it for £10 million.
Well, a bargain price in this day and age. Also, I can't get over the Lord President of the Privy Council. I think that is maybe the most British thing I've ever heard in my life. What does the Privy Council do exactly?
Well, they counsel the privies. No, actually, they're a group of senior politicians. They give advice to the sovereign, the king, the queen, whatever. Like I imagine, don't wear that robe. It makes you look fat.
All right, very useful. Important to have people that can tell you that. Okay, and then finally, I have to say, picking her as prime minister based on her ability to hold a sword for a long time, it's actually not the worst thing I've ever heard. We once picked a guy who was on The Apprentice, and look at how well that worked out for us.
Oh yeah, whatever happened to that guy? Actually, that's a good point. Now, on to more serious matters, Andrea. I understand there was another mass shooting in Texas, your home state, last week, wasn't there?
Yes.
They do seem to be happening with alarming regularity.
Yes, and Matt, I appreciated you checking on me this weekend after that happened. Luckily, myself and my family and friends were not there. I live a few hours away from there, but it's always scary when one of these happens nearby, which, as you said, is happening more and more often. So there are 2 schools of thought about how to deal with this pervasive issue of gun violence that happens all the time in our country and somehow never ever in yours. Option 1, which is proposed by the Democrats, is to maybe chill the fuck out on the fucking guns, you guys. The idea of good old common sense gun regulation, which the majority of this country supports, but we still do not have for some reason. It's so weird. There's also this idea of trying to keep people out of poverty so that they have the money to go get mental health care if they need it, and then just, providing mental health care to those who need it. It's an absolutely preposterous set of proposals that could never,
Ridiculous.
ever work. Yes. Then there's option 2, which is proposed by the Republicans, which is to read your guns a bedtime story and kiss them gently before you go to sleep, and then being able to buy a gun by just sort of generally wanting one. And also, they keep talking about this focus on mental health. Would you like to hear about their proposals for improving mental health, Matt?
Oh, yes, certainly. I mean, does it involve shooting things to feel better?
That is a large part of it, yes. So Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, after this shooting this weekend, he spent a lot of time talking about mental health, and he has solved the problem of mental health by cutting over $200 million in funding from the agency that oversees mental health in Texas. So you know that phrase, throw money at the problem?
Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of the opposite of that. For example, when your refrigerator breaks and all of your food spoils, the next logical step is to not buy a new refrigerator. Exactly, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, so you basically eat all the food that's gone off. Nothing ever bad has happened to people when they've done that.
Sure, exactly. It's this is poisoning you, take more poison is kind of the approach that we're working with. So there's a lot of people who make this argument against enacting this gun control legislation that, again, the majority of the country supports. And their argument is that even if we do enact gun control measures, that determined criminals will still find a way to get guns, so there's just no point in banning them. And to that, I have a couple of follow-up questions. Number one, to those people, I would ask, do you lock your doors at your house? Because a determined criminal can just come in anyways, right? So no reason to lock your doors. Question number two, if someone is a car thief and they steal cars, should we make it easier or harder for them to steal cars? Just a couple of bits of food for thought there for the people making that argument.
Or indeed, what's the point in having a border of any description if people are just going to try and get in anyway?
Sure,
they're always going to find a point, aren't they?
Exactly. So no need to build that border wall. Big waste of time. Just, leave it. It's not going to do any good anyway.
It's tricky. I mean, tricky certainly. As I understand it, the whole getting gun things was brought in originally to stop us Brits. And I'll be honest, it seems still pretty effective because I wouldn't want to go wandering around certain parts of the States where everybody had a gun.
Yes, this is what is known as playing the extremely long game.
But people in this country still get shot, even though guns are illegal to the vast majority of individuals. We had 35 deaths recorded in 2021. And this figure might surprise a lot of Brits, but nearly 5% of households in the UK have a gun.
I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I thought you guys had like 4 guns for the whole entire country and they were in the hands of the military. So what's the process like for getting a gun over there?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I've never tried, so I wouldn't really know where to start. But I do know that it's a bit more stringent in the way of checks than you guys have over there. Like you get one with a Happy Meal. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. It's important that the children have an opportunity to use the guns too. That's an interesting approach that you have restrictions that are so severe that you don't even know what they are and would have to go hunting to find out. So just want to compare. In 2021, you said you had 35 gun deaths for the whole entire country. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, 35. So for a comparison, we had 48,830 gun deaths to your 35. Now, of course, the U.S. is a lot bigger. So if we break that down, per every 100,000 people, 0.6 people get shot in the UK, so about half a person, hopefully the lower half, because all the important bits are usually up top. And for every half a person that gets shot in the UK, about 4.5 people get shot in the US. So a lot of people are saying that the US actually has more shootings, even when you factor in the Fahrenheit Celsius conversion.
Wow. Okay, sorry, but that's crazy. I mean, I knew you guys had gun deaths. we couldn't avoid it. I mean, it's all over the news whenever it happens. But
Right.
genuinely, I thought it might be something in the region of a few thousand. But wow. Although, to be fair, if I was living in the States and I heard those figures, it would actually make me want to go out and get a gun just in case somebody wanted to shoot me.
Well, that actually is a very effective marketing campaign for gun manufacturers and for the NRA. So every
Yeah.
time there's a mass shooting, it's just, like, well, you should go out and get a gun. And it's just really a dumb
Pretty effective
system.
advert, yeah.
Yeah. It's not my favorite, honestly. The U.S. is a deeply weird country, and I know that that is something that we have in common.
Oh, yes. Well, we showed it only last Saturday, for goodness sake. There we go.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, that's it for another week. A big thank you to Andrea, and to catch more of her marvelous mirth, her channel is at Fenix News Network. So get yourselves over there and get subscribing. And you can find my channel at The Interesting Times UK. I hope everyone has a good week. Please do stay safe, and we'll do it all again in a couple of weeks' time. What do you reckon, Andrea?
Sounds great. Cheers, you guys.
All right. Bye-bye.